Video 53. July 18, 2011. Mythi, the stereo-ahead infrared probe that is months ahead of our orbital position, showing a semicircle that has generated much speculation about what might be. Seeing this photo, you can tell what it is? On this picture, based on our database, I can say that there is not a celestial body in this state in that position. Is also not a spaceship. Nor is it a reflection. From the position on the date shown in the photo may be a fake or a problem on reception of photo. The object that you are waiting to see is going down and to the left of the Sun. Your solar observation satellites do not have the field of view needed to see it yet. In less than 30 days the object enters the field of vision of their cameras. Paul asks, how do you rate obedience? Is blind obedience necessary, or is there a degree of understanding that must precede it? When higher beings decide something and it is carried out by subordinates, is the basis of the obedience trust rather than complete understanding? Paul, when you get to a social and hierarchical level in which people with undoubted ability are the leaders above you, you have absolute certainty that their decisions are wise. When your leaders are legit friend, everything happens in tune, there are no second intentions or attitudes that compel subordinates to do things against their own consciences. False flags used in these the colonial times, with which your governments authorize the killing other human beings in the name of religion, or economic interests of some, no longer exist in post-colonial frequency levels. Sovereign breeds demonstrate their social natures by the attitudes and the wisdom of their leaders. Andrew asks, in earlier videos you mentioned that you're a lot older than us. I'm about to turn 40 years old. Do you feel aches and pains as we do at this age? Is your technology able to eliminate this kind of aging pain? If we are rescued by your people or one of the others participating, would we have access to your technology to live longer without pain? Andrew, the physical pain are the result of living in adverse conditions to balance the need for healthy development. Preservatives used in all kinds of food, aiming at long life and stock of distribution, makes many foods do more harm than good. But your labs need people, the sick, to sell your medicine. Health is not valued but used as an economic sector. Over the next level of frequency, disease and pain will be things of the past. One day, all that thy science conceals, for purely commercial reasons, will be made available to the population. To eliminate these aberrations of conduct of the current representatives of your planet. Yorick asks, Proxy, a friend of ours, questioned me on shape-shifting reptilian humanoid hybrids. Working in fields of politics and news reporting. You said before these hybrids are a work in progress. But did they actually succeed in ways they are now put into our society? Proxy, there are not shape-shifters. Although there is know-how to create this kind of reptilian human hybrid. The day you meet a reptile will understand what I mean. The difficulty is the same as you try to cross an alligator with monkey. The research done so far is the level of chromosomes and genomes. So far, only generated meaningless monstrosities, impractical as a future race hybrid. These videos that you claim exist, if not false, could only be three-dimensional holograms and not real people. It's said that we are only able to use about 10% of our brains. What would be the capability of a human with the ability to control 100% of our brains? Tracy, I believe that neither your renowned scientist Albert Einstein, who was tuned to a frequency level 1, was much over 10% of the brain activated. You can consider, for purposes of understanding, 7% of activation for each of the 10 levels of frequency of the third dimension, or 70% in total. The other 30% will only be released possibly in the fourth dimension. Do you currently, at best Earthlings, are 7% effective activation of the brain? At the level of frequency 5 to 6 that we are on our planet, we are close to 40% activation. It is impossible to describe to you what will happen when the assets of 100% of our brains. Jack asks, can human cross the Van Allen radiation belt? If not, why? Jack, the radiation is not only in the belt around your planet. There are thousands of areas where various types of cosmic radiation maintain its balance, loading and unloading. Any living being that travels through space has to do with a spacecraft using energy fields to prevent the effect of radiation zones. If you are in a spaceship, you can go where want, even near the sun, without feeling any effect inside. Yorick asks, Mythi, is Mars now ready to walk on without artificial help? As you stated, its atmosphere becomes breathable around now. Has any Earth human walked its surface without any help yet? Could you clarify that specific date? It will? Yorick, yes. Humans and reptilians can now walk the planet Mars breathing normally. There is currently lots of activity there. Much equipment has already been transferred there. And the colony is already a good number of people. A friend asks, Mythi, who is the one, known to us as Jehovah? Friend, Jehovah is the name used by Paleo-Hebrew people to name the creator of the universe, the omnipotent. It is the same meaning for all theosophical descriptions of God in other languages and cultures. It is not a person, is a denomination, a concept. Jackie asks, I would like to ask about the holographic reality for each of us. If one is aware of how thought attracts and creates the reality, then is there a different reality for each perspective? And do we jump to each reality as we choose our perspective? Jackie, all feasible prospect is within a certain reality. Any holographic environment, it is not a material reality. You can play, interact, and react to a state-of-the-art holographic environment but could not live in that environment. The reality of the third dimension is where you can interact and live, physically speaking. There is no way to exchange realities. At each stage of your development, you are in reality preset to your status of quantum matter. Some friends asks, Mythi, when Japan is going to sink? Will it be sooner than the brown dwarf star's arrival? Friends, Japan stands to suffer a great loss territorial soon. It is situated in a position of convergence of tectonic plates where any of them can cause a major disaster. All regions that are known to be unstable should be evacuated, including the capital. As I mentioned before, it is virtually impossible for a government to do this kind of evacuation. So this technical impasse will not lead to any solution to these regions. Depending on the time period between cause and effect, a part of the population can have time to move to other more stable regions. The approach of the dwarf star will trigger movements of tectonic plates across the planet, so Japan is not the only but may be first, followed in sequence by all countries concerned by the Pacific Ring of Fire. Tade asks, how come all the aliens bad and good, that mystery guy in the Pentagon who offered to change the world and etc. always address only the US? What about India, Russia, China? There is so little talk about them. Tade, many of your governments now have direct contact with these aliens. But initially the US government had the first contact. A Council of Representatives of the Planet has been assembled and is made all the arrangements for cooperation. The United States provided all the necessary facilities on its territory and the Council has provided the resources. All aliens captured alive are forwarded to these central bases where other breeds can be enticed to join the cooperation agreement. A few years ago, when your government was implementing a plan of a false flag against its own citizens demolishing some buildings, the Arcturians took advantage of to force the return of 8 members of a research team who had been imprisoned in an island in the Atlantic. The Americans have kept them in captivity for 7 months and wanted to force a cooperation agreement. The Arcturians took advantage of the confusion of the moment and gave an ultimatum by firing a beam of energy into the Pentagon. Immediately, the US government released the team. Panos asks, here in Greece we have an ancient temple, 5000 BC, for god Apollo, which they said that he left with others and they went to a Sirius planet and they are coming back in 2012, there is some truth to that? Panos, several breeds have been in contact with your ancient civilizations. After the Krugs from Pleiades, Sirius humanoid races and also a race of Sirius reptilians had several contacts with the Greek leaders at various times. These tales have basis in reality because the leaders have always had contacted experiences, real glimpse of holograms, light beams destructible, or lifting of heavy rock by gods. Possibly even the fact they left the message returned in this period can be true because some of that old breeds are currently assisting in the process of passage of the planet right now. Who knows, after the Earth enters the board of Community Galactica, these ancient gods to present to the Greeks, not as gods but as their new siblings. Lorelli asks, Mythi, if the planned events of the Antichrist as foretold in the Bible will still occur after Planet X appears on the scene? Do you know who the Antichrist is, and if so, can you tell us? Is he Prince William, aka reptilian race of the New World Order? Lorelli, the concept of Antichrist is not really a person. It's a mistake to try to point the finger at one person or another. The Antichrist is represented by all who collaborate in the creation of the triangle: power, abuse, and impunity. Those who consider themselves above the law, above life, health, and fate of entire populations, religious without any decency. All join to form the entity of the aforementioned Antichrist. The unscrupulous elite that now run the planet together form the head, trunk, and limbs of the Antichrist. It represents the eternal fight of a swordsman against the dragon, where everything is really conceptual. It is time for the world rid of black auras, and unifies the light ones.